school, and suddenly it just came to life. And then the second thing that happened, and this wasn't until I went to college in California, and I went to my first Shakespeare in the Park there, and it was Macbeth again. And just at the point where the soldiers are advancing at the end on Macbeth's castle, the fog rolled in through the redwood trees, and it was just spectacular, and I had goosebumps, and I was just like, oh my God, if everybody could have this experience, we would completely obliterate this thing about Shakespeare being so boring. And so that's been my goal since, that we're going to, if we can make it, if we can tell a really good story, we can get people excited about literature. And that's been our sole mission with regard to Shakespeare in the Park specifically. So in 1996, we did our first production at Fort Canning. We did Hamlet. We lost close to $500,000, and we decided we're never going to do that again. That was just stupid. It took 10 years before I forgot about that experience, and we started doing it again, and now we've done 5 in the last 6 years, and we have Othello opening tomorrow. And each year we have had an increase in the number of people coming. Last year I think we had 30,000 people come and watch Twelfth Night. We're close to 30,000 tickets sold already for Othello, and we haven't opened yet. So it's obviously growing as a tradition. We have 20 more schools that are coming this year than last year. So just to wrap up the thing, for me, the thing that is a crisis is this ongoing debate about the importance of literature and whether literature should be taught in schools. In 1992, there was a statistic, 1992, 17,000 students did literature at O-level. Last year, there were 3,000. I mean, to me, this is heartbreaking. So this is why we do Shakespeare in the Park.
Thank you. I'd like to open up to the floor, and does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Any comments about your passions of Shakespeare or Cervantes? Any favorite texts? Any questions? No? Yes.
I think Robbie's question is, which is Your Excellency's and the panelists' favourite Shakespeare play, and perhaps favourite episode or scene in Don Quixote?
Lovely. Well, we'll begin with the Spanish.
My favorite episode of Don Quixote. Well, for the comic element, my favorite passage would be the one where the two mayors are looking for a donkey lost in the woods, in which they are supposed to look for a donkey that is lost, and one of them starts hee-hawing on one side of the wood, and the other one starts hee-hawing on the other side of the wood, and that is supposed to draw the donkey in. But they do it so well that when one of the mayors hee-haws, the other believes the donkey is there. He goes there, looks for him, and says, no, it wasn't there. Then the other one hee-haws, and the donkey, the other mayor believes he's there. And this is an event that is celebrated every year by all the peasants around the place with a banner that says, no rebuznaron en balde en uno y el otro alcalde, which means they did not hee-haw for nothing, one mayor and the other mayor. This is actually a fascinating episode about the vanity of politicians.
Thank you. And from Shakespeare, something that's comical or perhaps a tragedy?
Well, actually, I'm probably going to slightly cheat. I would say 2. First of all, partly because as I get older, I have a mind like a sieve. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. But I certainly remember Twelfth Night in the park last year, and I just thought I'd seen Macbeth the year before, and I thought it was great. But Twelfth Night just completely blew me away. I thought the stage was phenomenal, and it was just one of those actually slightly rare but perfect Singapore evenings. It wasn't too hot, and I sat on the grass with my wife, we drank a bottle of champagne, and watched this phenomenal play, and it was perfect. And then the other one is a bit hackneyed, really, which is Henry V. For me, I just think is wonderful. And it's a wonderful recounting of a sort of key period of British history. And again, it's that one for me is the power of the text there actually is not hard to deconstruct. And it comes out almost from every page. And I give you a little secret, none of you will believe this at all, but in the UK, when I was preparing to come out here, they sent me on a public speaking course, which was actually slightly ridiculous, but don't tell anyone in London I said that. And I spent 2 days at RADA, which is, to me, was a great thrill, because I had no acting qualities whatsoever. But just being in RADA was great, and they made me do texts from Henry V, and I don't know why. So I have a sort of, they made me actually rehearse it, do it properly, perform it. And it's phenomenal. So I'm cheating, those two. Twelfth Night and Henry.
Thank you, those are two lovely scenes. John, Gaurav, any particular favourites?
I think my favourite Shakespeare play is The Winter's Tale. It's not a very... I think it's one of the less often produced of Shakespeare's plays, and I think we were educated by a generation of commentators on Shakespeare in the 20th century to think of Hamlet, Macbeth, Lear, and Othello as the centre of the Shakespearean canon, but he wrote these amazing plays at the end of his career that are known as romances, in which he deals with themes of reconciliation and forgiveness, and it's always a problematic kind of reconciliation that comes out at the end of these plays, but they're ones that I find very moving, and because they represent a movement beyond what seems to me to be a period in Shakespeare's life when he was very pessimistic about human nature, and it's an attempt to see some light at the end of the tunnel, I think. So The Winter's Tale is my favourite.
Thank you, a lovely optimistic note, Gaurav.
I'd have to go with two. Very interesting. The Witch's Tale is my favourite Shakespeare play as well, for exactly the same reasons. We were very fortunate. About 4 or 5 years ago, we co-produced and co-commissioned something called the Bridge Project, which was a collaboration between the Old Vic in London and BAM in New York. And the first production that Sam Mendes directed was The Winter's Tale. And we did it here, and it had just a spectacular cast. But then they didn't finish the tour. The second last stop on their tour, they did it in the open air amphitheater in Epidaurus. And the play became even more powerful for me because the set was gone, the lights were gone, they had lighting, but it was just, they stripped away everything. And it was just such a magical experience because it is actually one of his best written plays. And the second one actually is Othello, which is the one that I wanted to do for years, but we thought because Shakespeare wasn't popular here, we'd start with comedies. So we did Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night, Much Ado, and worked our way up to the Scottish play, and now we can finally do Othello, which is probably one of the most powerful. And it's Shakespeare gives you so much meat and so much emotion that it's just riveting, and then he does things that just infuriate you. And I think Othello gives you a lot of that, because this man eloped, got married, went to run another country, was sent to Cyprus to fight a war which didn't happen, and got insanely jealous, all within about 24 hours, and killed his wife. I mean, it's pretty...
A busy day.
Actually, The Winter's Tale is kind of a rewriting of Othello, except it extends after the period when the protagonist kills his wife and gives us, a kind of reconciliation of that tragedy at the end.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from the floor? Yes.
I'm wondering how Cervantes is read differently now as a political and a social metaphor compared to the Franco period. Has its meaning changed? Has its significance to Spanish artists changed?
Your Excellency.
Well, I don't think it really has changed very much as he is read. There was always some sort of second meaning to Cervantes that was quite difficult to come about unless you read it more than once. The fact about Don Quixote is it's a book that you can return to as often as you want, and you always find something new in it. It is, there's a fascinating short story by Borges called Pierre Menard, autor del Quijote, in which he sets out the difference about reading Don Quixote in the 16th century as written by Cervantes and reading Don Quixote as written by Pierre Menard in the 20th century. He doesn't change a single word, but he explains the difference between one reading and the other, saying that Cervantes could not have the depth of knowledge of history that Pierre Menard had already had in the 20th century. Incredible short story. And then Borges is all incredible.
Thank you so much. Any final comments from our panelists?
Come watch Othello.
Any more literary comments?
Read Don Quixote.
Thank you so much to our panelists and to the floor for participating. Thank you.
As we near the end of our program, we have a finale performance for all of you, a Spanish court dance, Sevillanas Boleras. Although the dance is a few centuries late of the 16th century, I hope that the historians in the audience don't take it to heart. Choreographed by Mrs. Diana Blanche, we have Miss Kimberly Chan from LaSalle back on stage for Sevillanas Boleras. Thank you, Kimberly, for that wonderful performance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our program this evening. We would like to thank the ambassadors, Your Excellencies, for being here with us today, distinguished guests, and thank you for being part of this wonderful celebration. the National Library Board would also like to thank the Embassy of Spain, the British High Commission, and the British Council for being part of such a meaningful collaboration. We hope that you have enjoyed the evening. Please do stay and join us for a reception with food and drinks specially prepared by the embassies. Please also feel free to look around our library for exhibitions celebrating Cervantes and Shakespeare. We have some beautiful costumes from the Singapore Dance Theatre on display. Thank you very much. I believe the Artistic Director of SDT is here. As well as a brief history of Cervantes and Shakespeare at our Innovation Gallery over here. So thank you very much, and I hope you have enjoyed yourself tonight and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.